Hey guys, it's Charlene. I made this card last week using the box of crayons Fancy Dies, and I love this card so much that I decided I wanted to make another card with this die set. So here you can see it consists of this lovely crayon box die, several different crayons, and I'm also going to use the new Sky Ombre Hero Transfers. Now today I plan to give you lots of tips and tricks about how to ensure a perfect result when you're working with these transfers. So let's get started. I wanted to start by showing you all of these beautiful ombre transfers. What I'm going to do is I have some pieces of scrap cardstock here that I have left over from trimming down card panels, and I'm going to go ahead and color these with the ombre transfers. Then I'm going to die cut from those using my box of crayon Fancy Dies. So I'll start out here just by picking a few different colors of transfers, and then I'm going to go ahead and measure out about how much I will need for each crayon. So I have one of the crayons here. You see it doesn't need very much of the transfer at all. I'll go ahead and pick where I want this to eventually be cut from. I think right about here, and then I can save the rest of this transfer, which can be used to do all kinds of fun different things. So I'll trim this with my scissors. Then once I've trimmed it out, I can peel off the backing and place it down onto my cardstock. You want to make sure your cardstock is nice and clean, and then you want to make sure and burnish it down really, really well. There is a popsicle stick that's included with the transfers, but if you for some reason misplace that, you can also use your bone folder, or you can apply pressure by running the entire piece through your die cutting machine. So what I do is I go straight back and forth a little bit, and then I go around the entire thing with tiny little circles. That's so I can make sure that every little spot on there is burnished down really well. Once it's all the way down, you want to peel off that release paper really slowly. You don't want to go too fast, because if you do miss a spot, you can put that release paper right back down and burnish it some more. So you can't even tell it's completely smooth once you've put that down onto the cardstock and removed the release paper. Now I can die cut my crayon. I have my compact cutter here, so I will go ahead and run this through my die cutting machine. Easy peasy, very little waste here, which is really nice. And then once this comes through, you're going to see it creates a beautifully perfect die cut crayon. I love it. And I like that this set has different styles of crayons that you can use, so it really makes it very versatile. So there's our first beautiful ombre crayon, easy to do. Now I'm going to use one of the different designs for my next crayon that I'm going to cut out. When I'm done, I want to have a rainbow ombre of crayons. So for this one, I'm going to do from the teal to the blue, remove that backing paper, and just like before, make sure your paper is nice and clean. Lay it down slowly, that way you don't have to worry about things bunching or getting wrinkles, and then coming back in with the popsicle stick to burnish everything down. Back and forth all the way down. You can see, if I show this on camera, it's not gonna, there we go. You can see where I've already burnished by going back and forth, and you can see there's a lot of spots that are missing. So now I'll come in with the tiny little circles so I can ensure all of that beautiful transfer gets onto the paper. And then once I feel like everything has been put down really, really well, I will go around on the edges. You don't want to forget those edges. That's the area I generally tend to forget, and it has cost me on some transfers. So now we'll remove that release paper and look again, peeling very, very slowly, but look how beautiful that ombre transfer is. I love it. Hero Arts has a lot of different beautiful transfers, and they are really easy to use. There are images, there are large sheets just like this, and you can create backgrounds, you can add on sentiments using them, all kinds of different things. So for this crayon here, I'm going to go from the green into the teal. So we'll remove that backing paper, put it on our cardstock, do our burnishing again. And then we'll remove that release paper. Next we can die cut here, and then we have the green going into the teal. It's so, so pretty. So I'm going to do a similar thing here with this ombre transfer. I'm going to go ahead and do one from this side so that it's more in the yellow. I'll cut that out and then peel off the release tape, place it on our cardstock, and burnish it down. It's really nice having the option to just use a little piece of a transfer like this rather than having to ink blend. So if I wanted to have an ombre yellow crayon and I was ink blending, it would take a lot more time to get that really nice, beautiful ombre effect. And here I can have this fun detail on my card with very little work other than some use of a popsicle stick. So remembering to get those edges really nicely, we'll remove our release tape and again die cut this out. It's nice to have a little desktop die cutter like this, makes things really easy. For this crayon, I'm going to go from the orange into the yellow, and again, I am switching up the design of each of these crayons, so I'm making sure to rotate which die I'm using, so that way when I have them all together on the front of my card, you'll see the pattern of the different die cuts. Now for our last one here, I'm going to go from the pink into the orange. I'll place this down on our cardstock and again get that burnishing down. This is really bold and beautiful. And you also, if you've ever seen the ombre ink pads from Hero Arts, those coordinate really well with these colors. So there's our finished crayons. I'll set those aside. I don't want to lose any of that beautiful color once these are put into our crayon box. So this time I'm going to cut the crayon box from vellum. So I've got a piece of vellum here and I'll run this through my die cutting machine. It's going to cut really well, no issues. And you can see we have this beautifully die cut crayon box now. Here I have this rainbow stamp. This is the Floral Rainbow and Cloud bundle that I have. And I'm going to stamp this out in some Intens-ified Black ink. Intens-ified Black ink is great for both watercoloring and alcohol marker coloring. I'm stamping this onto some Deluxe smooth white cardstock and I'm going to be doing some alcohol marker coloring. I'll do a second stamping on here, flip this over and make sure to press down nice and evenly, and then we can go ahead and lift that up. Beautiful image, die cut it with the coordinating die. And before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and put our crayons together. So I've got a piece of low tack tape here and I've got my pink and then my orange, and then I'll do my yellow. Now we'll do green, blue, and purple, and then I'll just add another piece of tape along the bottom. This is going to make it super easy peasy for me to glue my crayons in place and not have them going all over. So you can see now we can see those crayons through the vellum, which is really fun. I'm doing really basic coloring, you guys, on this rainbow here. I'm just going to try and match my crayon colors. So I'll start with some RV 0.4 color in the entire bottom part of the rainbow. And then I'll use some O 2.4 for my next part. These are Olo markers. For my yellow, I am going to use some Y 2.3. Green, I have G 5.3. For blue, I have BG 0.4, and then for my purple, I have some BV 4.5. Off camera, I did color those a second time with the markers just to build up the color, but I'm going to leave the rest of this in black and white to get a really kind of fun graphic style to this card. So I'll put my crayons in here that we have already taped together, and then you can see this rainbow is going to go right over the top of the box, so almost like it looks like the rainbow is turning into the crayon colors. That was the thought I had in my head anyway, so hopefully that is coming across in the finished card when you see it. Once I figured out exactly where I want everything, I'm going to bring in a piece of double-sided tape just to make sure that that vellum is really secure on the crayons. So make sure it's nice and straight, and then I'll just slide my piece of double-sided tape underneath the vellum, push down, continue to hold everything with my fingers. I'll bring in some kind of nice pokey tool here. That's how I get the release tape off and then smooth everything down. So now my crayon box and my crayons are going to stay in place. They're not going to move around on me when I'm trying to do stuff. I'm going to add some double-sided foam tape to our rainbow. This is kind of a low loft foam tape. Remove the release tape, and then I will lay this right over the top of the crayon box, finding some real nice centered right hand kind of placement for that. I think that looks great right there. I do want our full crayon box to have a little bit of loft on the card, so I cut 2 more from white cardstock. I'll add some glue here, and then I'll layer these both together, laying that first one right on the top, making sure it is nice and straight. And then since you can sometimes see glue through vellum, I want to make sure I don't have any issues there, so I'll just add glue where I know it's not going to show, adding it all the way along the back behind the crayons, and then also underneath where I have that foam taped rainbow part on the front. Once I get all of that glue down, I'll go ahead and lay it right over the top of our doubled cardstock piece, and then I will set that aside to dry. I'm going to use the Hello stamp from the same stamp set for our sentiment. I have a scrap of pitch black cardstock. I'll add some anti-static powder and stamp this with clear embossing ink. So go ahead and flip that over and press it down. I am going to do it twice just so I can make sure I've got a nice amount of that embossing ink on there. Now I'll add my white embossing powder and tap it off, making sure my heat tool is nice and hot before I bring it in, and I will melt that embossing powder, making sure not to stay in one spot for too long. Then I can cut it out with the coordinating die. For our background, I'm going to do some fun tone-on-tone stamping. This is a beautiful look. So I've got some granite cardstock here. I'm working with the Script Bold Prints. This is a beautiful, easy way to add texture to a background. You can use this stamp pretty much forever and for lots of different styles of cards. So I'll line up the cling stamp and then pick it up with my press plate there, and I'll ink it up with some granite ink. So it'll be nice and tone on tone. Flip this over and go ahead and make sure I get some real nice even pressure. I like to stand up when I do that. I only stamped it once because I don't want it to be too bold. I want it to kind of fade into the background there. So now I'll add some glue all the way back to our crayon box piece and make sure that there's a good amount on there. I don't want this moving around on me. And I will glue this right to the center of our card panel. I think it looks nice right about there. Now I'll add my sentiment. I did die cut 2 additional of the hello, and I glued them back behind there so that I'll have a little bit of loft behind the sentiment, help it to stand out and keep it away from the rest of that rainbow. I think it looks really nice with a couple of layers on the back of it like that. Once I get that where I like it, I'll go ahead and press it down and bring in some glue on the back of the entire panel and add it to an A2 sized card base. As a finishing touch here, I'm going to bring in some CG0, which is a really light gray, and I'm going to color in the centers of the florals and do a little bit of shading elsewhere on those as well. It's very, very faint, but I feel like it helps to break up the flowers just a little bit. And here we have this beautiful, almost kind of romantic looking, but very colorful card. I'm so happy with how this turned out. To give you a sense here, here's the card I did last week. Very, very different, but both very pretty. All right, guys, I hope you picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue to bring you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.